All right, thanks everybody for coming. I am Dr. Margelet Hamilton, and I will be conducting your MAT1033 Test 2 review today. So you already have your test review in your booklet. You've been working on that. You have the annotated notes, you have the videos, you have all that good stuff for that. So I won't waste your time doing that because you already have that. Okay, so I have some problems that I'm going to put on the board. You work them. I walk around, you ask me questions, then we talk about them. Is everybody all right? Your test, you should have about 25, 26 problems on your test. They're worth 5 points apiece. It's a lot of stuff going on in this test involving solving something. All right, so we're going to look at all of those aspects, some multiple choice selections, how they look and how we can get them to work for us. We're also going to look at how we can get through the free response part. So the same setup as your first test. Multiple choice the first part, free response the second part. So we're going to do a little thing, put some problems up, and then we're going to work it. All right, we have 6 problems up here. Let me know if you can't understand anything. The printer was not very nice to me. So we have 6 problems. Let's take about 6-7 minutes, see what we can do with it, okay? I'm just rewriting what's already there because it was, yeah, I'm sorry, the printer, it was a weird thing going on. So you have multiple choice selections for number 1, number 3, number 4, and number 6. So multiple choice selections for those. And number 2 is reaching way back. So number 1 says solve for x. And they're going to give you a problem that has parentheses in it. What do they want you to do? They want you to not distribute all the way. They want you to leave off a negative sign. Okay? That's what they want. But we're not going to do that. Okay? Because we know what we do. We're going to distribute. Make sure if you're drawing your arrows to point to everything, that's fine. But make sure you're consistent. So when we distribute our 2, what do we get? Minus, is greater than. Don't leave off your letters. Right? We'll do it. Okay? You're moving fast. You got plenty of time for the test. Make sure you're being strategic. So now that we've got rid of our parentheses, we distributed. Now we need to finish solving by combining like terms. Let me go ahead and subtract the 6x. When I do this, I'm creating that situation, right? Where I need to use my rule. Here we are. Subtracting the 6x over. 2x minus 6x gives me a negative. Then I have to subtract the 6, and 30 minus 6 gives me a positive. Right here, I have to divide now by my negative 8. And dividing by the negative number, I got to flip the inequality symbol. So I get x is now less than negative. So my answer, A. Now, what if on your paper, you work towards making your x positive? Then you got, you don't have to write this, negative 3, right? You got that, didn't you? Okay? Remember, always read from your letter to your number, and you'll get x is less than negative 3. It still says the same thing, but they're always going to write your letters first. But if you just read from your letter to your number, you can match up your answer very easily. Yes, you can put your x's on any side of the inequality symbol you want, just like you can with your equal sign. Again, if you wanted to add the 2 over and bring it over, that's fine. Okay, as long as you read from your letter to your number, it should be fine. Number 2 says find the slope. So they reach all the way back to chapter 2 with this when we were looking at slopes. What form does this have to be in for us to get the slope out? So now they're saying, hey, before we used to give it to you already ready. Now you have to solve for y. What's the first thing we need to do? Okay, so we get 12y equals negative 3x plus 7. Make sure you don't change any signs to stuff you didn't move. And then our last step is to divide. So we get y equals. Always simplify your fractions. They're not going to give you the unsimplified answer. That would be wrong. So now we're going to simplify, and negative 3 goes into 12 and leaves negative 1/4. Plus this thing over here, do I even care what it is? Because that's not what they're asking me for. They're asking for the slope, and our slope is m equals negative 1/4. Number 3, it says solve, and they give us a problem that has 2 inequality symbols in it. Right there we know it's a compound inequality, right? Looking at the multiple choice selections, without us even doing any work, can you tell me which ones just can't be my answer? A has a possibility. What's wrong with C? This is a union answer. Is this a union problem? No. Can't be our answer. Do you see that? Okay, what else can't be our answer? B. Okay, tell me what's wrong with B. The infinities are an important thing to note. In this particular setup of the problem, can infinity ever be in there? No. This setup right here tells us that our x's that we're talking about are going to be trapped in between two specific numbers. Infinity is not specific. So anything with an infinity in it with this particular problem just can't ever be our answer. What did I do? I just ruled out two answers. I ain't even wrote nothing yet. On the test, that's what you're going to do, problem number 8. I'm just saying. We know now, because of the structure that they give us, that our answer has to have a parenthesis on the front, do we agree? And a parenthesis on the back. We also know that we're only going to have one interval, so we know that we have choices between A and D. Now, if you're just lazy about it and you just want to go and pick it, you got a 50-50 chance. It's better than 1 out of 4. So now, let's get the right answer. What are we going to do first? We got to add the 3. Remember, always think opposite. Okay? So we get -8 plus 3 gives me a -5 is less than, okay, which is less than. And then we're going to dividing by 5. So we get is less than. X is less than. So our answer, D. Let the multiple choice help you. In certain cases, a lot of the cases, it will help. You want to work, she asked, why am I adding the -3? So remember, your X term has to be in between your two inequality symbols. Okay? You do not want to pull anything from the outside in. You always want to work from inside your flower out. Okay? Always away from your X. Because the only thing that should be left in there is an X. So that means you're going to have to add or subtract something out, then divide something out. Every time. Number 4, it says write the inequality, right, in interval notation. They gave us X is greater than 2. X is greater than 2. So if you have some feelings about coming from the inequality to the interval, sometimes it helps to graph it on a number line. And if that helps you to make sure you're looking at the interval correctly, do that. But think about it. You know you're talking about X is greater than 2. So you know you need at least a 2 in your answer. We know that part. Tell me what kind of symbol we need on the 2. Well, it's greater than, so is that a parenthesis or a bracket? Do you agree that we should have no brackets in our answer whatsoever? So I can rule out 2 answers. Do you see that? Tell me which ones just can't be the answer. Right there, going. So now you got 2 choices. You either coming from -infinity to 2, or you're going to positive infinity. Which one is it? B. Is everybody all right? If all else fails, take the time. It only takes like 2 or 3 seconds to graph it. So if you're using circles, it would be an open circle shading all the way to the right. So when you read your graph, you should have a parenthesis with a 2 going to positive infinity. Number 5, it says solve, and they give you this problem with decimal points. And again, if you're working with the decimal points, that's great. If you don't want to work with them, we can get rid of them. How are we going to get rid of them? Multiply by 10. And then the key thing we have to remember is not to take that 10 inside of the parentheses. Okay? You can't double dip. So you got to multiply by the coefficient of those parentheses, that thing right there. So here we are with the cleanup. That leaves us with 2x. Do we agree? Minus 3 times, and the stuff in the parentheses stay the same, equals -2x. Is everybody okay with the cleanup? We multiplied by 10 because we saw that at least one of our numbers was off by 1 decimal point. And if we didn't want to work with the decimals, we know that if we multiply by 10, it would move that decimal point 1 place to the right and get rid of them. So it would do it here, it would move it here, and it would move it here. And it doesn't matter. Remember, if only one of your numbers in there had a decimal and you wanted to get rid of it, you'd still multiply everything by 10. Okay? All right, so now we've cleaned it up. Now we got to distribute our stuff. So we have 2x. Distributing the negative 3 is negative, plus. And then we do some cleanup. 2x plus 6x. Is everybody okay? Then you want to add the 2x over? Yeah? Okay. So what's 8x plus 2x? Okay. And that means we got to add the 15. So we get x equals what? What is it? 15 over 10, which can be reduced to 3 over 2, or what decimal? 1.5. Why did I give you the decimal point? Because after you finish solving this problem and you don't see your simplified fraction, you may see the decimal representation. So either one. They're not going to have both. They're going to have one or the other. Number 6, it says solve the compound inequality. And we have some multiple choice selections down there. When they give you the compound inequality that has the word and or in it, we have to do something. Now we know we got to solve it, right? Let's get that out the way. They already helped us right here where they already told us that x is less than 8, right? If they help you, you say thank you and you move on, right? On the test, they ain't gonna help you. You gotta solve it. But we gotta solve this next one, this right here. So did you subtract the 1 over? So you got 3x is greater than or equal to what? 9. And 3 goes into 9. So we have x is greater than or equal to 3. And then we have x is less than 8. What do we have to do next? We have to graph it. Do not get happy and you see the 3, you see the 8, and you're like, oh yeah, I know which one. Do you? Not without the graph. For sure you don't. Here we are. There's our graph. Make it sweet, cute. We know that 3 comes first and 8 comes next. What kind of symbols you want to put on them? Are you using circles or are you using parentheses and brackets? So parentheses and brackets. So here we are. If we use parentheses and brackets, then on the 3, which one do we need? Okay, and if you're using circles, it would be a closed circle. So if you have using the brackets, you're going to open it up to the right and shade all the way to the end of your line for x is greater than or equal to 3. Okay, and then on the 8, are we using a parenthesis or bracket? Parenthesis. If you're using circles, what are you using? Okay, so if you have the parentheses, you're going to open it to the left and shade all those x's that are less than 8. So we got our solve on, we got our graph on, we need the answer. Which one is it? All real numbers? Well, the word in front now is going to, in the middle, is going to tell us what we're looking for, and it says and. What does and mean? Clean it up, including what? What about the shaded area? Everything in between. Okay, so and means the overlap of those shadings, right? Where they come together. So do we agree that they overlap in between the two numbers here? Yeah. Right? So the shadings come together right there. So because it's an and problem, our answer is A. What if the word in between was or? Which one would it be? C. It would be the all real numbers one, right? Because or means the union of the two shadings, right? So that means that you would mash those two things together and you see it will cover every number on the number line. Do you see that? So then if it was an or problem, our answer would be C. Is everybody okay? You got to be clear on the and the or. You got two problems like that, okay? One and, one or. And you got to make sure you know exactly what they're asking. All right, let's try these 7 through 11. All right, you're going to do all of them for number 7. And you have multiple choice selections for number 9 and number 11. Looking at number 7, it says, how many solutions does each system have? Now on the test, they're not going to give you all 3. They're just going to give you one of them, right? And then you need to be able to tell how many solutions it has. So we're going to answer all of them. How many does A have? Just 1. The 2 lines cross in one spot. That is 1 solution. How many does B have? Many. And then C, no touch, no solution. Because your system, your lines only cross in one place. Number 8 says solve, and they give you these fractional things. It's a linear inequality, but still fractions in it. You got to get rid of the fractions. Remember, what you want is in the numerator, and it's being held hostage by the denominator, right? So you have got to get rid of those denominators. What is our common denominator? Now remember, if you are using proportions here, where you're cross multiplying, remember that's fine still here. But here we can just multiply by 4, and it's going to clear out everything for us. 2 goes into 4. And then 2 times this good stuff up here is less than or equal to 2x plus 1. So now, what do you want to do? So you added the 4x. Okay, so adding the 4x over, 4x plus 2x gives us, and then that means you subtracted the 1, so 10 minus 1. And then we got to divide by a 6, so x is greater than or equal to, so x is greater than or equal to 3/2. Number 9. It says the sum of 3 consecutive odd integers is 54. Select the equation that fits. So on the test, they may ask you just to set up the equation, or they may ask you to actually solve for the number. But either way, you still have to have the right setup. Looking at our multiple choice selections, can you tell me which ones can't be our answer? What's wrong with C? You got to distribute. Here they're telling us they want us to multiply. Did they say anything about multiplying? No. Okay, right there. That can't be our answer for sure. Tell me what's wrong with D. Well, they said consecutive odd integers, right? And this is a 1, there's a 3. Aren't those odd numbers? Just because they said they want consecutive odd numbers, right? Doesn't mean that if they put odd numbers in our answer in the formula, that means that that's going to give it to us. Do we agree? This is called a misleader. They gave you the keyword odd. They gave you some odd numbers. They want you to circle it. Are you going to circle it? Don't circle it. Not your answer. We only have 2 setups. We have consecutive integers, and we have consecutive odd integers. Which one is our answer? B. What does A give us? Just consecutive, right? Just plain old consecutive numbers falling right behind each other. Remember that even and odd numbers differ by 2. So if your first number is x, your next number has to be x plus 2. And your next number has to be x plus 4. Our answer, B. 10. It says, what is the equation used to solve for the interior angles of this triangle? They asked us for the equation. Okay, go ahead and tell it. Okay, so x plus 6x plus x plus 3 equals to 180. Not 90. They're going to throw that on you too. Not 90. It has to be 180. We just have to remember that you have to add these things up, and it has to equal 180. Now, they may ask you just to write the equation, right? Or they may ask you to actually find the angles. Either way, you still got to have the right setup. Number 11, it says which graph is the solution to y is less than or equal to 3x minus 2? Tell me which ones can't be our answer. A can't be it. Y. So this symbol right here, the less than or equal to, tells us we need a solid line. So So A and D can't be our answer. So now that we ruled out two answers, the other two, now we got to decide where's our solution. Is it at the top of the line or the bottom of the line? And how do we know it's at the bottom? So we have a less than or equal to symbol, and we know that less than anything falls to the bottom. Anything positive rise to the top. So our answer, B. 12 says in a certain triangle, the measures of the interior angles are represented as x, 2x, and x minus 20. And we just looked at what we need to do for our setup, right? Find all the measures, right? They want you to find the measures of all three angles. So this time they want you to actually identify what those are. Those are the three angles. So we have the two problems. I'm gonna move these up. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about 12 and 13, and then I'll move up those other two. All right, so number 12, we're talking about our triangle again. Again, they gave us our interior angles, and they want us to actually now find the measures of the angles. So we said earlier that we have to add these up. Equals to 180. All right, and then we can find what our three angles are. So if they actually ask you for the three angles, you got to give them all three. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and solve it. And x plus 2x plus x gave me what? Then you're going to add the 20 over. You add it, okay? And then 4 goes into that. So x equals 50 degrees. Then you have 2x equals. Then you have x minus 20 equals. Does it add up to 180? Make sure you're clear. Because if this is in the free response section, then you need to make sure you write your steps and then give all three. Okay? Number 13, it says, in a certain rectangle, the length is 3 feet more than the width. Find the values of W, the width, so that the perimeter is less than 86 feet. Now, they give us the letter they want us to use, W, and they tell us that they want W to be the width. So they're giving us the start off. If you don't want to use W, I'm sure your instructor is not going to take out points if you decide you want to use X. Okay, or whatever makes you feel comfy. But we're going to use W because it told us that we're going to let W equal the width. They told us what the length is. What should it look like? What does the length look like? Okay, so 3 plus X or W plus 3? Okay, so as long as you're adding a 3 to your W, you're good. You got your parts. All right, so now we need to remember our perimeter of a rectangle formula. P equals, okay, so 2L plus 2W. We know what our length is, what our width is. We're going to plug it into the perimeter part. So we have 2 times W plus 3 plus 2, and we're replacing W with W. It's still going to be W. Again, remember, if you're using another letter, just make sure at this point that you have a statement that has all that letter in it. No other letters. Then the key part is at the end where it says so that the perimeter is less than 86 feet. So we need an inequality symbol where the pointy part is pointing to the meat of the stuff, right? The perimeter stuff. And then 86. Right here, I'm sure, whoever your instructor is, if it's not correct right here at this point, they're not going any further. I'm not. You got to have the right setup. Now, we got to solve. What do we get for W? W is less than 20. Did everybody get that? So we have 2W plus what? Plus 2W is less than 86. What's 2W plus 2W? Subtract the 6 over and we get W is less than 20. Here they're not asking us in our traditional rectangle problem to tell me what the length is and what the width is, okay? What they're asking us to do is tell what W has to be in order for our perimeter to fall less than 86. Is that all right? So right here, our answer finished is W is less than 20. W has to be less than 20 in order to make it true. Do not try to go back and pick a W so you can plug it in and all that stuff like that. Okay? That will get points off of your test. Here we are with 14, 15, and let me see if I can squeeze something else up in there. Yeah, I got some other stuff to squeeze in there too. All right. So we have 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 18 has some multiple choice selections. Try to squeeze it in there. All right, you can still work them. So number 14 says, let X be the larger number and let Y be the smaller number. Then they want you to solve, and there's the setup right there. The sum of two numbers is 11. The difference of the two numbers is 5. Find the numbers. So number 14 and 15. Well, on the test, you have 4 questions that involve you solving a system. So you definitely have number 14 on there, right? Where you actually have to write out the equations yourself, then solve it. And then you have 3 questions like number 15 that you have to actually solve. So you got to use one of the chosen methods. No guessing. You got to either use elimination or substitution. And you can do all of these using one of those methods. So if substitution is your friend and you just love it, then master it, okay? If elimination is just wonderful to you, then master it. You only need one method. The beauty of knowing how to do 2 of them is that sometimes they'll have it set up for you in one of the methods already. Then you can go ahead and be a quick solve, do it. So it's always good to know both ways. Here we are with our 14. It says let X be the larger number and Y be the smaller number. So they're going to tell you what letters to use. And we know we're dealing with X and Y. The first equation comes from the first statement where it says the sum of the two numbers is 11. So do we agree that if we add X plus Y, we should get 11? And then our second equation comes from the second sentence where it says the difference of the two numbers is 5. So that should look like, what method do you want to use to solve it? You use substitution? What did you solve for? That is a nice, easy solve. All of these are good, easy solves for substitution. Is it already set up for elimination? Already set up for elimination. So if you're doing elimination, then the Y's were already ready to cancel. Okay? So I'm going to do both. So here's the, I'm just going to say addition and then sub. So if we're doing the addition method, we have X plus Y equals 11, X minus Y equals 5. It's already set up for me to cancel the Y's, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then we have X plus X gives us what? Equals, and 2 goes into that. So you have X equals 8. What does Y equal? Is everybody all right with that? If we're using substitution, substituting the first one for Y, you said? So you'll have Y equals negative X plus 11. All right, so now we're going to take what we just found and substitute it into our second equation. So here's our first equation, second. So I'm going to sub into the second equation. Wherever I see a Y, I'm going to put that stuff. So here's X. Here's the negative right from there. Here's my plug-in. Negative X plus 11 equals 5. Helping to remind us of our substitution skills. So we got to distribute here. We get X plus X. Do we agree? Minus 11. So X plus X is. And then we're going to add the 11 over and get. So X equals. And so we know that Y equals. So 2 different methods, same results. Just whatever makes you feel comfortable. Well, X is 8. So then you can take and plug it back into any one of the original problems. In this particular case, we're looking for 2 numbers, right? So once I find that first number 8, I can use the finger method. Because, you know, it ain't broke 8, 9, 10, 11, and I got it. right? Okay, the bulk of your work comes from finding the first letter. You're going to get that 1 point. Just tell me what the missing one is. All right? Now, if that's not your instructor is still going to kind of do the same thing, I'm sure, if I'm not your instructor. But the bulk of your work always comes from that first letter. And if you can find that first one, just use the fingers. Here we are with the next one. They already have it written for us. What method are we using? Elimination? Okay, it's set up for it. You already have both equations lined up, x's, y's equals constant. Okay, which letter do you want to cancel? The x? That's fine, because you see that the coefficients to our x's is a 4 and a 2. And we can easily make a 2 into a 4, right? If you wanted to cancel the y's would be good too. Why? Because one of your y's is a 1 and a 5. We could easily make this into a 5. Do you see that? So either one of these would be good if you want to cancel the x or the y's. It'll be one manipulation. We're going for the x's. That means that we need to multiply our second equation by what number? 2. They already have the right signs. Do you see that? Yeah. Okay, so we have our first equation, 4x minus y equals -4. And then here's my manipulation of the second equation, -4x, then what? 10y equals. We got the manipulation down. Now we're ready to go ahead and add the two equations together. The x's cancel and leave us a positive equals 54, and 9 goes into that. So we got our y equals 6. Now we need to find out what x equals. Taking that 6, plugging it back into one of the original problems or the one you multiplied through by 2. It doesn't matter where you plug it in. Then we can find out what our x equals. What did you find out? 1/2? Positive or negative? Positive. Is everybody all right with that? So where do you want to plug it in? The first one or the second one? Okay, so we have 4x minus, here's my plug-in, the 6 equals -4. All right, so we have 4x, and I'm going to add the 6 over, and 6 minus 4 gives me a positive. So x equals 1/2. Here we are looking at 16. It says graph. They give us a graph. We have to put it in what form first? Slope-intercept form. And we can do it with one movement. So we have y is greater than beautiful plus, okay? So we got it in y, slope-intercept form. Okay. So now we're starting with our y-intercept, which is, okay, and the slope tells us to 2, 3, 4 over 1. What kind of line do I need? Need a broken line there. Now, where's my solution side? Whenever you have inequalities, you got to shade something. So we have a greater than symbol, right? So where's our solution, on the top of the line or the bottom of the line? The top of the line. So inequalities, whether it's on the number line, if it's on the x and y axis, you gotta shade some stuff. Number 17 says solve. What's our common denominator? Just 6. So remember, we gotta get the stuff from the top, right? In order to do that, we gotta get rid of the bottom stuff. So multiplying by a common denominator of 6. 3 goes into 6 how many times? And 2 times this stuff up here gives me? Okay. Minus 3 equals. If you get to your second step and you still have fractions, you didn't do what you wanted to do, you gotta get rid of them. So now we're gonna do some cleanup. So we get 2k minus 1, do we agree with that? Equals 3k minus 3. Can we go ahead and subtract the 2k? And that gives us just k. And then we have adding the 3 over, and 3 minus 1 gives us 2. 18. So we have to solve, and then they want us to write our answer in interval form. Okay, so distributing, we get minus is greater than. And then what did you want to do? Move the 8 over. So we're going to subtract the 8 over. So 15 minus 8 gives us what? 7. And then that means that you added the 5x over and got what? Then we got to divide by our 9. So we get x is less than 7 over 9. Which answer corresponds to that? B. Do we agree with that? Because we have x is less than. So that means that you should have a lead off of a negative infinity going to our positive 7 over 9. So if you look at these other answers, they have 9 over 7. Do you see that? Right there, you know those couldn't be your answer. That leaves you now 2 of them with at least a 7 over 9. One's positive, one's negative. We already did number 19, didn't we? Yeah, we already did 19. Let's not do that one. Let's do number 20 and 21. Let's look at 20 and 21. All right, the quotient of a number and 8 equals 5 more than the number. What's our answer? D is in dog. What's wrong with A? Okay, right there. What's wrong with B? Subtraction. Okay, you see that? They subtracted these two numbers. They didn't say anything about subtraction in there. All right, so the only choices we have to look at is C and D. And then this first statement right here tells us which one we're looking for. The quotient of a number and x means that the number comes on top, the x goes on the 8 goes on the bottom. D has to be our answer. Then we have 21. It says solve. What's your answer there? All real numbers. So when we distribute, you got 4x, right? Plus, plus, and then you combine like terms and you got your 16x, do you agree? And 20 plus 2 is 22. Right here, I can stop. Do you see that? They're equal to each other. Even if you went ahead and crossed out your 16 x's, you still got 22 equals 22. It's still true, right? Even if you went ahead and subtracted 22 and crossed them out, you got 0 equals 0. That's still true. True statements in math means many solutions, okay? So here would be all real numbers, or they would give you negative infinity to positive infinity. They may combine the answer too, okay, and give you both of these as one of your selections.